Kadialy, we just played a gig together, which is really beautiful, really fun for me.
Great. That's amazing.
And it's nice to just sit down with you and have a chat about music, and possibly other things too. So tell me a little bit about the way you were taught music.
I come from this musical tradition called the griot tradition in West Africa. So it's a tradition passed down from father to son, which is literally like all the family members, it's like a family thing.
Yeah.
So basically, the family context is not like you live with your father and your mother. Usually in a family, you're going to be living with your cousins or other relatives from everywhere, So all those people belonging to the same group, they either play the kora. If they are ladies, they would sing or stuff like that. So you have this rich culture. So it's a matter of environment. So I grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
Around my grandmother, my cousins, uncles, and relatives who coming in and out. So the instrument has been around playing every day. It's a daily basis because either my grandfather is playing or my cousins. So as a child, you grow up and the instrument is there. So you pick it up,
Yeah.
because it's the only toy, basically.
Aged.
Attractive toy. Yeah.
Aged what, more or less? You picked up your first kora.
Yeah, I cannot remember exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that it has been there, and it's not usually only one kora, many.
Of course.
So
yeah. And
imagine as a child, you grow up, morning his grandfather is playing, afternoon during the day cousin is playing, or evening grandfather is playing. So you're obviously gonna be next to that instrument all the time.
So this is so the way you learnt music facilitated massively your memorization of music, right?
Yeah.
As in, I know for a fact that you're really quick at memorizing things.
I used to be.
Maybe not other things
Before the
apart from
lockdown, I
music.
used to be. Yeah.
But no, like I remember, because obviously you collaborate with a lot of types of musicians, and when they give you stuff to learn, you don't read it off paper, but you learn it orally super fast, really fast.
I think I was fast before the presence of technology. The presence of technology has changed definitely the way I memorize things, because then I can rely on recording things, and things like that. So kind of like the whole system becomes a bit lazy. You rely on other elements.
Yeah.
But traditionally, we're coming from, it's a reason why it's called oral tradition, because you hear, you capture, and you grow up kind of doing things like that.
I remember about maybe 7, 8 years ago, your playing started to develop massively, and I really noticed it. We played some time together, and then maybe we played again a few months later, and you suddenly had all these new ways of playing the kora.
Yeah.
So tell me about how you kind of developed all the kora techniques, like finger techniques, to make your own style, and was that like a conscious decision to expand traditional techniques?
It's just like, it's just because it's about the finger muscles, the way they adapt to a certain way, now I'm used to playing my own, But of course, it's like a...
Yeah.
I'm in a different key, but, for what I want to play.
Yeah.
So that kind of, better, so I have other stuff, So, it's difficult to explain, but,
because, for example, when we play together, sometimes I'm playing a bass line, and the bass line is, really sort of solid, and it needs to be solid, for the reason that you're, sometimes you're, not floating exactly, because you're always, in the rhythmic in the
I'm
groove,
manipulating the rhythm, yeah.
Yeah, but you play lots of like tremolo type things, like really fast trills and stuff. And I wonder how much of that is like your own invention and how much of it is part of something else.
It's still kind of in a traditional context.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of you have to have the muscles. For example, you are doing 50, but I want to do 100, 100? Within 50, but still, so basically I want to do the double of that, but still being within that.
In time,
so that requires control. Mm-hmm. So for that control to be there, you have to have the muscle to control it. You know what I mean? So in a traditional way, if I want to do it, I will, because of the length of my finger, I'll struggle.
Okay.
But with my system.
You adapted
adapted system. Just like to develop,
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense, and like, that's what all of us do, I guess, in a way. So thinking of those like bass lines and griot music, is cyclical, right? It works in loops. Mm-hmm. So how do you, when you're improvising and you're making like crazy variations, how do you stay inside the loop?
So that's kind of more of a understanding, the language, that within that cycle, the melodical, the rhythmical, basically the language of what's that is spoken at that present time.
Yeah.
So, and then also trusting, the partner you are playing with, knowing that they're not gonna let you down. So
Well, I mean, it's hard enough for me to play the loops while you're improvising, and I imagine improvising whilst imagining that loop and listen to it must be,
because you allow me to go more into to dive into the improvisation. By hinting this solidness within your playing. It's like, okay, this guy is there. I mean, it's not conscious, unconsciously. I know that you're not gonna go because you have shown few cycles of what you are doing. And then I can see some what's the word, some consistency there. So therefore I can allow myself to play around that cycle, by jumping, double jumping, triple jumping, things like that. But knowing I'm gonna fall at the same point.
Do you always resolve in a very like specific and on purpose place, right?
But also, if you're playing by yourself, anyway, you develop this by playing by yourself. When you're playing a traditional cycle song, which is obviously that's the loop. Traditionally, the songs is sometimes it's just a one loop, and within that loop you make it more interesting by adding elements of improvisation. So you loop to you adapt, you kind of train yourself. That's part of practice, of course. Train yourself to do whatever improvisation you do within that cycle, but still having it playing continuously while you are doing other stuff.
So is it, when you're improvising, is it in your mind's ear, let's say? Is it in your mind, or is it just unconsciously there? It's so deep that you don't even need to think about it, or are you actually imagining it while you're improvising other stuff? The loop, I mean.
Yeah, of course, it's in my mind. It's somewhere in there,
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, even if I'm not manifesting it.
Yeah.
Sometimes because things can be more exciting, and then I'm kind of moving to it, But
how much it gets manifested is a huge amount of the kind of artistry of this music.
Artistry.
I guess.
Some people can be like manifest this all the time.
And
other people are like, sometimes I like just like. To enjoy it more with a close eye, or and sometimes it depends. I can
I understand.
And that sometimes can be a response to the other guy is encouraging you more, so you are even going to.
Okay, tell me about griot singing, and I noticed that like the way you sing, it's so beautiful how you sing, and it's very intimate in a way. It's kind of quite introspective, I would say. It's very sort of soft and just tender, you know, and I love it so much. But tell me about the ornamentation in the way you sing, because that's something I'm really interested in all music.
Yeah, I think that's just a part of the style, you know, for the singing, you know. The style, usually, because we are praise singers, we sing people's praises, you know. The griot sing about love, about nature, about social issues, you know, about, you know, so many different things. But usually this, you know, these songs are dedicated whether to people or to a nation or to, you know, events that happen.
Yeah.
So all these things are attached to emotions, you know, so that emotion needs to be felt when you are singing. And then because the praise singing tradition of it, which is like telling people ancestry, be historians, you know, and then so it's like, for example, if I sing about you, I'm telling you about your ancestors and stuff like that. I have to tell it in a way that it takes you back, you know, and then I cannot say it in a dry way. It has to come up with this, you know, this emotion.
Man, I'm gonna hold
the
you.
Passion, you know.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah. But traditionally, that's how it is, you know.
Sure.
So the passion has to be there so that you can feel it. Otherwise, you know, you're not gonna feel it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why traditionally, when the griot is singing, people give a lot because, you know, that way, you know, they give money, they give, you know, cows, you know,
Cows,
they give,
yeah.
a house, and you know,
So
because of that style, you know.
And so going back to the thing of ornaments, how do the ornaments in your voice relate to like the emotion? Could you show us some of the way you ornament the melodies singing?
Yeah, for example, if I take this love song I sang, Kanuforo, you know, if I go, Olubenna, Sunguru, Palubenna,
Is there a name?
You know, that kind of thing.
Is there a name for that?
It's a hymno.
Okay.
That is like the passion, you know, I'm putting into it.
So it's directly related to emotional content.
Yeah. So it's part of the style. It's in the language as well, you know.
How would that melody be if you didn't ornament it?
Ulubenna, Sunguru Balubenna, Kanudela.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a big difference.
But then I have to feel it here first. Ulubenna, Sunguru Balubenna. You know. Yeah. I'm saying, you know, they have met, you know, the girls has met for the sake of love. The boys has met for the sake of love. So I'm putting, because it's, you know, there is this thing about love in it, you know.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Something I noticed, one of the first things I noticed when we started playing together was that there's no boundary between when you tune your instrument. Obviously you've got loads of strings, so it takes a while to tune, and it's an important part of the instrument and the music, right? Tuning it. But there's no boundary between when you tune it and when you start the performance, or when you start playing the music. So and other types of music, like there's a really artificial cut-off point. You know, people tune their instruments, then they stop and make a very sort of serious silence, and then the music kind of comes out silence, and it's a lot more formal. So I wonder, like, if you could say something about that, or if it's something to do with like the social context of how music gets made, how your music gets made traditionally, or you tell me.
Yeah, I mean, there is this before playing the kora, you question the kora, what we call nyininkaro, like a question in the kora. So within that, so by questioning the kora, you are trying to play to the tonic of the song you are going to play, you know. So within that nyininkaro, you are sort of short improvisation where you're going through the strings, you know, but then you are just initiating the melody line of the song. But within that, you can hear if something is out of tune, and then you can stop in tune and continue the questioning of the kora, and then you transit into kind of a setting the rhythm, you know, and stuff like that, you know. So the tuning is a big part of the playing. So so you make it part of it, you know.
Yeah.
But then you kind of put it in this Nyininkaro style, you know, and then
and it all just flows.
Yeah, it flows.
Into
Yeah.
It's nice.
But in a more contextualized way, if you are playing in a different context, you can follow those rules as well.
Of course,
by stopping, you know.
Of course, but it's a really beautiful thing, and it's actually something that probably some Western musicians might take a while to get used to, or because they're so used to something else. The same goes for like counting off the music, you know. So like I guess like in European classical music, you don't count off the music, you just kind of start. And in the kind of early jazz tradition, people just started playing. They didn't count tunes off necessarily. They might do a little intro or something. But like in a lot of pop music or rock or even jazz or whatever, like people count off the music, and it's something that always felt like
maybe that's because the music is set. It's like it has a beginning and it has an end. So, and it has a middle and it has elements where the improvisation exactly needs to be. For example, if you're playing Bach or, you know, other classical music, you cannot really allow yourself to go over where the way it's written. For the classical choral music, you know, although somebody composed it or, you know, these repertoires, it never has a particular beginning or particular ending. You are, you know, you have the shape, you have the frame, the melody line, and all the stuff. But you know, now the player coming into that, you know, is allowed to take it, you know, somewhere else, because this instrument is supposed to be from a spirit. We get the knowledge from spirit apparently. So therefore, when you play it. Sometimes the playing is you know, hot, the spirit can assist you. It is said. Sometimes that's why when we were learning as children, they don't allow us to play this instrument late at night by yourself because the spirit might assist you. You know, so you know. So imagine you're playing, the spirit is there now. You know, and you are in this amazing solo, and the spirit is like, oh, let's go. You know.
Obviously, griot tradition is a lot about storytelling. So I'm wondering, like, you've been living in London 14 years, is that what you said?
Yeah, close,
more or less.
More or less.
So has the storytelling element of your songs and your music changed since you moved to like a giant city? I mean, you lived in a big city before, of course, but how does that happen in a city that's so anonymous and is where it's so difficult to feel like you're in a community?
I think you know, these stories are kind of goes into cycles. You know, the same stories that we were living back home or other generations before, you know, me or stuff like that. Those same struggles are happening around, except they are different in a different format, you know. So the songs were, if most of the songs like were dedicated to kings and the battles and struggles, or the unfairness and the humanity and stuff like that, and then love, you know, the same kind of topics are still relevant, you know, just like in a different ways, but also the griot, of course, is just taking an example of myself. My compositions are more inspired by what is happening around my surrounding, my environment, you know. So whether it's love, whether it's compassion or humanity or socializing, you know, like, you know, all those elements, so they still come into my composition.
Of course.
And back home they also come, but in a different ways, you know. Of course, the audience is very different, but you know, it's very transferable, you know, to one audience to another.
Tell us a little bit. Give us some lyrics.
Well,
if you want.
I told about the Kansala thing during the concert. But if you take the other one, Ifanji. So my composition, Ifanji means be humble. You know, it's about modesty. So it's just an Nteri Ifanji, my friend. You know, be humble. You have to be humble. Don't you know? Literally, Kanefan Wara means don't make yourself too big. That's a literal translation. You know. Don't think like you are better than others. You know. Behave, you know. This is just like a straight advice, very, you know. Imakunde means behave. So hanasike dindingleti, even if it's a child in front of you, be humble with them, you know. Even if it's an elderly person, be humble, you know. put yourself down, be humble to them, So the lyrics goes around that, with a different format, kind of articulating in different ways and going more deeper into, but still it's just around that kind of advice of, being humble.
Beautiful. And another question I was thinking about was, how do you find common ground? Obviously you play with all sorts of different types of musicians in London from all over the world. How do you find common ground with musicians who've had such a different musical education?
Yeah, it's all about, experiences, and in each experience you learn, something, whether it's a bad or a good experience, So it cannot all be beautiful, collaborations or beautiful encounters, But sometimes those bad encounters can, make you appreciate the beautiful ones, or teach you about, how you could behave, in that situation, if you didn't know, So, they are all interesting, and then some have been amazing, some has been, but that's life,
Of course.
So,
Do you feel like more often than not you're teaching or showing other people your skills, or are you also in equal measure learning a lot from other people?
Yeah, I guess by showing other people, you learn, from it.
Of course,
Because sometimes, when I say learn from it, this conception that maybe sometimes something can be very obvious to you, and then it happens to me sometimes,
How do you mean?
It's like, when somebody's struggling with
I see.
a cycle within, sometimes, it used to be the situation where I can't believe that they cannot hear this, blah, blah, stuff like that. And then you come to understand that, there are different educations around this whole thing, and different ways of understanding.
Totally. I mean, that's happened to me lots of times, right? Where in fact, that happened to me today. So I'm going to tell this story, because so you sent me for the concert today. You sent me two new tunes to look at.
Yeah.
And you sent me the recordings of them.
Yeah.
And one of the recordings was just you. Playing solo, right, and singing. And I listened to it and I tried to work it out. And I wrote it down, because writing it down helps me understand it, and then hopefully I can memorize it as well, or not, whatever. But I actually learned it the wrong way, because to me, with my type of education, which is very limited in this respect, I misinterpreted what I was hearing, actually, and so I learnt it. So you can hear, there are a lot of songs that you have that you can hear them in different ways. You can hear the beat specifically, like in a different way. And if you hear it the wrong way, that's what we call you flipped it, right? You're flipped. You're the wrong side. And so I came today to our rehearsal. And I was like, I've learnt this song. I got it completely wrong. And I was like. And actually, of course, the process of unlearning something is quite difficult. You have to completely get rid of it and then sort of start again.
True.
But luckily, I think I was able to do that just in time, although it was hard. But I think actually for people listening to the concert, people with a different musical education to you, half of them will be hearing the tune in a completely different place.
Different place, definitely.
But maybe that doesn't matter. I mean, it probably doesn't matter, but it's still interesting to figure that stuff out.
It's interesting to hear the other side, where they put it, where they placed it. It's like, okay, that also does exist.
It does exist. You're right. It's there. It's definitely there.
It's like, very interesting. And then it flips the whole thing in my head as well. It's like, what is going on, So
and of course that doesn't just happen with music from Senegal. It could happen with a lot of Latin American music as well.
Of course.
Remember this thing of Changui music from Cuba, where nobody who isn't from the east of Cuba can hear this music in the right place, because it's so difficult unless you've had that specific education. But
indeed.
I mean, I recommend people, who are listening to your music or even this gig to try and really be sure if they're feeling the pulse
Yeah.
in the right place, and there are different clues to how to get that right.
Yeah,
So you might
yeah.
be like tapping your foot
Yeah.
in on the beat, or you might be moving in a certain way, but it's
Yeah.
not always what you think. That's
Yeah, it's
the
not.
thing.
Yeah, it's not always. I think it's kind of like dancing as well. You know, sometimes you have to go through that process to understand different cultures. The rules, not well, the rules about behind certain type of dances.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they all have. In this context, it's not about rules, but it's more about. I would say it's more about feeling.
Yeah.
And that feeling is probably conventional in our area. We understand the language, we understand that kind of feeling towards that type of music. So it's not an obligation for other people to feel that way about that music, even rhythmically.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a lot of time.
So play it without telling anyone where like the beat is. So I think like play the tune. This is where I thought it was. So if someone exactly. So that's just a quick demonstration of how you can feel things in two different ways, and that happened to us today, and it's it's really nice actually to get it. It's a really kind of satisfying thing in a sort of perverse way to get it so
because
wrong.
Because if you're feeling it that way, and then we play, and I bring the bridge, you may miss it.
I'm gonna be completely lost. Yeah. All right, Kadialy, thanks so much. It's been a beautiful day.
My pleasure. It's great to play again.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks.